continuously delivering value and exploring great books from around the world. Hello, this is Sally's Book Talk. Today I'll be interpreting the book, The World Without Us, for you. What if one day humans suddenly disappeared from the Earth? What would the world become? After humans are gone, would the Earth feel relieved? Or would it miss us? Today, the book, The World Without Us, will give you the answer. The author, Alan Weisman, is a renowned American science writer and journalist. He has written for magazines like The Atlantic and Discover, and he's a producer for National Public Radio. His book, The World Without Us, won the 2006 Best Science Writing Award in the U.S., topped Time magazine's Best Nonfiction list in 2007, and has been translated into over 40 languages over the past decade. The World Without Us is a popular science book with an environmental theme, but its perspective is truly unique. Starting from a hypothesis, the author explores what the world would be like without humans, a world we've never seen. Next, I'll walk you through the main content of the book using 3 key questions. First, how would cities change without humans? Second, what legacy would humans leave for the Earth? Third, where would the world without us ultimately head? All right, first, let's tackle the book's first question. How would the cities we live in change without humans? Today, over half the world's population lives in cities. If everyone vanished suddenly, who would notice something's amiss first? The answer is likely our pets. Pet cats and dogs would be the first to realize their owners are gone. Hungry! They'd try to escape their homes within days of humans disappearing and search for food everywhere. However, their fates would differ drastically. Some pet cats might revert to the wild and survive by hunting small birds, while pet dogs would struggle to survive without people. The descendants of the last pet dogs would likely be hunted to extinction by wild predators soon after humans are gone. Besides pets, who else would miss humans? The answer might surprise you. It's rats and cockroaches. Without humans providing endless food, rats would starve in large numbers. Cockroaches, though, have existed for over 300 million years. They're better at enduring hunger than rats and even survived the dinosaur extinction era. But the disappearance of humans would also deal them a heavy blow, because they only flourished after humans started building houses that provided warm environments. Once humans vanish, vast numbers of cockroaches would freeze to death. As for lice and follicle mites that can only parasitize humans, they'd simply vanish along with us. After humans disappear, cities would grow quiet, but soon become noisy again as animals return. Months after humans vanish, wild animals like deer, bison, wolves, and bears would occupy our streets while raptors like hawks soar overhead. And deer herds wander through shopping districts, munching on garden plants while curiously peering into storefront windows.
Wolves would likely hunt prey fiercely in alleyways.
Wild plants would continuously expand their territories. Take New York. If humans disappeared, streets would likely be dominated by a wild tree species called Tree of Heaven. Tree of Heaven emits a foul smell. Unpopular with humans, it's constantly removed by gardeners, but its strong reproductive ability lets wind dispersed seeds root even in concrete cracks. Without humans, Tree of Heaven would sprout everywhere in New York, cracking sidewalks within months.
Within 5 years, it would uproot entire sidewalks with its extensive root systems.
These powerful roots would damage sewer systems as wild plants dismantle urban infrastructure. Water and fire would continue destroying city buildings. First, fire. Over time, leaking flammable materials like gas could ignite fires anytime, while lightning ignites accumulating dead leaves and vines. As lightning rods fail, building roofs won't be spared. Though buildings have fire prevention systems, without firefighters, small sparks would rapidly burn entire blocks to rubble. Nature welcomes city fires, though. Charred wood and debris enrich barren open soil, nourishing plants. Crumbled concrete increases soil alkalinity, letting trees like sea buckthorn and birch thrive, while charred buildings become covered in ivy, bursting with life. Now let's talk about water. With no humans in the city, no one would maintain drainage pipes. A brief heavy rain could clog pipes,
flooding human-built underground facilities like subways.
Take New York. It relies on pumping systems to drain water from underground tunnels during storms. Without humans, all underground spaces would flood within days. Though surface might seem normal for years, subway support beams would corrode and deform from water exposure, eventually collapsing.
After decades, New York's subway lines would fully collapse, forming new water-filled rivers throughout the city.
Many buildings would also crumble due to water damage. Take museums, modern concrete structures prioritize climate control over durability. Rain would penetrate weakest points like roofs. With uncontrolled humidity, mold, bacteria, and insects would quickly destroy precious artworks like paintings. Concrete walls wouldn't last long either. Rusting rebar would expand and crack structures until buildings collapse. In contrast, bank vaults and safes would fare much better, being deeply buried and heavily fortified against water. If vaults survive flooding, their contents might remain intact for centuries, but would our savings be safe? The answer: money would still be there but moldy, and without people, it'd become worthless.
The author notes natural material structures like pyramids, the Great Wall, and great temples last millennia. In New York, St. Paul's Chapel, built 1766 with water-resistant shale, would endure for centuries, despite being covered in plants.
The Statue of Liberty, made of copper and steel alloy, would topple into the harbor, while surface rust and barnacles would cover it. These would protect its core, preserving its shape longer. Oh. Centuries later, city ruins will be swallowed by expanding forests and deserts. Coastal lowland cities may gradually sink into the sea due to rising sea levels and long-term erosion. By then, traces of cities would become nearly impossible to find on Earth. All right, that concludes the first part. Without humans, our cities would become wildlife paradises. Over time, fire and water would destroy human structures, survivors swallowed by nature. Civilization built over millennia would fade. So what legacy would humans leave? It's now to the book's second question. We often say, the spirit endures forever. Some might believe humanity's spiritual wealth, like literature and art, would be preserved long-term. But preserving these beautiful things remains just a hopeful human wish. Though paper might last centuries in ideal conditions, without readers, it becomes worthless dust. For Earth, humanity's longest-lasting legacy is trash and pollution. Plastic, petrochemicals, and nuclear waste will persist, forcing Earth to heal these scars for millennia. But first, plastic waste. Its mass production brought convenience. Yet from creation, it burdened nature. Discarded plastics won't degrade for centuries. Though ecoplastics with added cellulose were developed to degrade faster, degraded plastics become microparticles threatening marine life.
These invisible particles get swallowed by sea creatures, some inherently toxic.
Others absorb toxins like magnets. Some plastics attract PCBs, disrupting endocrine systems and causing death. Humans produced billions of tons of plastic in just half a century. So after humans vanish, how long until plastic completely disappears from Earth? The answer: hundreds of thousands of years. After discussing plastic waste, let's turn to petrochemical products. Humans built countless chemical plants to manufacture chemical products. For example, the Rocky Mountain Arsenal near Denver International Airport was once a chemical weapons factory, producing mustard gas, nerve agents, and napalm during wartime. And in peacetime, it produced pesticides. The factory's core area was once the most polluted place on Earth. How severe was the pollution? There was a lake within the factory where water instantly killed ducks upon landing. Even aluminum boats retrieving duck corpses had their bottoms corroded through. Earth has enormous chemical plants. From Houston to the Gulf of Mexico, hundreds of petrochemical storage tanks span 80 kilometers, with toxic materials flowing through pipelines. If humans vanished, these plants would likely explode sequentially due to chemical leaks. Storage tanks and pipelines would gradually corrode and crack. Releasing toxins into the environment, refineries and oil wells might ignite. Once an oil well ignites, fires would burn until nothing remains combustible. Toxins like hydrogen cyanide and heavy metals would spread globally through smoke. Finally, nuclear pollution, likely humanity's most troublesome legacy for Earth. This sobering statistics would leave about 30,000 nuclear warheads whose radiation would persist for millennia. Plutonium-based warheads need roughly 250,000 years to decay to harmless levels. During this process, corroded warhead casings would cause environmental contamination. Nuclear fuel from power plants and buried radioactive waste would also leak. With over 400 active nuclear plants worldwide, consider America's Palo Verde, the largest U.S. plant near Phoenix. Some waste is stored in zirconium rods submerged in 13.7-meter deep pools, other waste sealed in steel tanks beneath concrete. When containment fails, surrounding environments suffer. How devastating is nuclear pollution? Look at Chernobyl's story for the answer. In 1986, the Chernobyl nuclear disaster exposed tens of thousands to high radiation, leading to illness or death. Surrounding areas became uninhabited for centuries. In contaminated zones, some creatures die instantly, others mutate from radiation. Even tens of thousands of years later, this would still happen. For example, some swallows might not die directly from radiation, but could get albinism from genetic mutations.
These sick swallows might not attract mates due to odd colors or get caught easily by predators, slowly vanishing.
At this point, we've covered the book's second question. What legacy would humans leave for Earth? The answer is garbage and pollution. After humans vanish, they'd become Earth's hard-to-heal scars. So, can Earth clean up the mess humans left behind? Now, let's discuss the book's third question. Where would the world without us ultimately head? Pixar's sci-fi animation Wall-E shows Earth severely damaged. Toxic air, no plants, humans fleeing, leaving only robot Wall-E to slowly handle mountains of trash. The author thinks if humans vanished now, Earth wouldn't be as bad as in the movie, and he'd feel relieved. Because human pollution would finally stop. Nature could recover to its pre-human state over centuries or millennia. What would that specifically look like? First, let's look at the land where humans lived. Before humans appeared, the land was covered in continuous forests. For example, the largest primeval forest in Eurasia, stretching from Europe to China, called the Bialovesia forest. Today, this forest has been mostly destroyed by humans, with only about 10 square kilometers preserved near the Poland-Belarus border due to inaccessibility. What is this forest like? Tall ash and linden trees block out the sky, while shorter tree ferns occupy the understory. Underfoot, accumulated layers of mulch, fallen leaves, and decaying branches emit a fragrant aroma filling the air. They nourish thousands of mushrooms, mosses, insects, maggots, and microorganisms. Young mice, pine martens, raccoons, otters, foxes, wolves, roe deer, elk, eagles all live in this forest, with remarkable biodiversity. We humans have planted and managed vast forests worldwide, claiming to expand forest area but actually seeking more timber. To manage these forests and increase timber output, we constantly remove dead trees and eliminate organisms hindering growth, making forests orderly. Now, yet in these orderly plantations, tree species are monotonous, with biodiversity often less than 10% of primeval forests. For example, in primeval forests, naturally dying trees sustain countless organisms, from microbes to birds. Some woodpeckers only survive in old-growth forests since they nest in dying, hollow trees. But in managed plantations, deadwood removal leaves no nesting sites, driving these woodpeckers to extinction. After humans vanish, without major climate shifts, primeval forests would rapidly expand. Within centuries, most land, except polar and desert regions, would be reforested globally, gradually returning to pre-human levels. As humans disappear and primeval forests return, animals would follow. Take birds. Before humans, their numbers were staggering. Consider the passenger pigeon, among Earth's most abundant birds before humans. Migrating across North America, their flocks stretched 500 kilometers with billions of birds. Yet this prolific species was hunted to extinction by 1914 for its tasty meat. Beyond hunting, Pesticides like DDT caused mass bird extinctions. Human-built signal towers and glass buildings also kill birds. On January 23, 1998, nearly 10,000 dead Lapland longspurs, sparrow-sized migratory birds, were found below radio towers in Kansas. During a blizzard the previous night, these small birds collided with the towers. The long-wave red light from signal towers is deadly to birds, especially during storms or fog, as it disrupts their navigation systems, causing them to crash into the towers. Well, it's estimated that in the U.S., up to 500 million birds die each year from signal tower interference, and another billion die from colliding with glass buildings in fog. But the good news is, South America still preserves many rare bird species. Colombia is home to over 1,700 bird species, making it the country with the richest avian diversity. The white-winged brushfinch lives only in a valley in Ecuador's Andes Mountains. The gray-headed eagle is confined to a single hilltop in northeastern Venezuela. The Brazilian red monkey tanager can only be seen on a ranch north of Rio de Janeiro. If humans disappear, these beautiful birds will quickly appear in the skies across all continents. The same will happen in the ocean, which was once the cradle of life on Earth. Human presence not only hunted vast numbers of marine life like fish, but also dumped massive sewage and plastic waste into the sea, severely damaging ocean ecosystems. Take coral reefs as an example. They're called the tropical rainforests of the sea, the most vital marine ecosystems, formed from countless coral polyp skeletons over hundreds to thousands of years. And 7 life savings were still grassy for you. Although coral reefs exist only in a few tropical waters, a quarter of marine species live in them and depend on them.
Ocean pollution and destruction have caused massive coral reef deaths, pushing many marine animals living there to the brink of extinction.
Max, some optimistic scientists estimate that if humans disappear, coral reefs could recover in just a few hundred years. For example, American oceanographer Quesala notes that once humans vanish and pollution stops, severely damaged reefs could recover within 2 centuries. After 500 years, the ocean will experience an explosion in fish populations. At that time, if anyone returned to Earth, they might be too scared to jump into the sea because there are so many mouths waiting for them. Of course, due to human destruction, garbage and pollution will also be stumbling blocks on Earth's path to recovery. However, to handle these, Earth has its 3 great tools: decomposition, burial, and waiting. From the day humans disappear, Earth's microbes will team up with sunlight, air, and water to decompose trash and eliminate pollution. Burial will also begin. Rivers erosion and intense geological events like volcanoes and earthquakes will bury hard to decompose waste deep underground. Some pollution takes an extremely long time to eliminate. For example, radioactive decay from nuclear pollution may require hundreds of thousands of years to become harmless. Whether through decomposition, burial, or waiting, all demand vast amounts of time. Yet for Earth, time is the one resource it never lacks. Earth's geological history spans 4.5 billion years, while humans have existed mere tens of thousands. Truly just a blink of an eye. Throughout these 4.5 billion years, Earth survived asteroid impacts, supervolcanoes, and mass extinctions, yet always recovered. Earth will eventually erase all human-caused damage too. Here we conclude the book's 3rd question. Where would the world without us ultimately head? The answer: returning to its pre-human state. Earth is fundamental to human survival, yet humans may mean nothing to Earth. At this point you might ask, how likely is sudden mass human disappearance? The author considers it highly improbable. Deadly viruses might kill millions and cripple societies, but total human extinction is unlikely. Moreover, human technology won't enable mass interplanetary migration for a long time. Earth remains humanity's only home. If humans vanished from Earth, or even the universe, what would we leave behind? What could prove we existed? What would your answer be? All right, that concludes our interpretation of The World Without Us. Reading notes are below the audio. We'll see you next time.